Yeah, it was. Now, can you guys hear me? Mic check. Was that off?
Yeah, it was
It
blue
might have
when
been
we
off.
started.
Mic check. Mic check. Can you hear me now? Sign language. Yeah, you guys can hear me? Okay.
Very
Yes.
good.
So maybe I'll switch cameras. Maybe that was the problem. Dude, I was sitting here
Okay.
talking, rattling off, dude. Saying what's up to everybody. Now
Man.
gotta go through it all again. You guys know the story. I'm not gonna go through everybody. Doug Rubin, Oswenio, Graham, Spinning Rod Rebel, Benji. But Judge, I do want to hit. I just want to say I saw that, dude. You've been catching the replays. I know your brother's sick, so dude, I appreciate you being here. But yeah, you gotta take care of your family. I know what it's like. That's definitely more important than this show. But I'm glad you're here with us, Captain Dan in Denver, Leonard, Oos, Andreas, Oos. Glad you guys are all here. Cave Dog. Glad I went through all that until I saw you guys at the bottom and said no sound. Yeah, I would use the sign language, but I don't know how. But anyways, we got the guys from BD out here today, BD Outdoors. You guys know we did a sponsored trip with them. Last week we talked about it on the show. It was really cool. Kevin was here. Coincidentally, he was on a trip and we ended up in the same spot, so we talked about the trip a little bit. So, just talk about kind of like the inside the industry. I know you guys, anybody that's here on the show knows what BD is. BD Outdoors. Obviously, if you're a fisherman, it's like, especially here in Southern California, you guys already know. So that's super awesome. You guys can be here. Mel, what's going on? Welcome to the show. If you guys see everybody typing "oos" in the chat, basically just means they've liked the show. So if you guys are in here, and there's 30 of you guys, just hit the like button. Helps the exposure. Helps us get out, and yeah, really appreciate it. So that's what the "oos" is about. If you guys are seeing it, so sorry I gave you guys a shout out, but you couldn't hear it. Hopefully you can read lips and you'll see it. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. And so you guys from BD Outdoors. Once Cam, introduce yourself.
What's up, guys? Yeah, so my name's Cameron Gamble. I'm the community marketing manager at BD. I've been there for a little over a year now. I basically do all of our in-house marketing as well as events. And part of the events is the sponsored trips, which put us all together on the Apollo last week. 2 days out of Long Beach was pretty rad.
Absolutely.
Yeah, super stoked. And then, Mike came in and sponsored the trip for us, supplied a bunch of jigs, landed us a bunch of sick rockfish. So, coolest part about my job at BD is basically being able to meet all these new people and
cool.
outreach and all this and that. But, so yeah, what I do for them is in the forums and stuff, you guys see our accounts, BD staff, contributors, events. I'm running most of those, and I'm in there on my own personal account too. So reach out, say what's up. If you're not a member of our site, there's no reason you shouldn't join. It's free. We produce a crazy amount of content, from how-tos to premium films, all sorts of stuff on a weekly basis, surf fishing, kayak fishing. We're branching out into other areas of fishing as well. Of course, we're definitely do the inshore, offshore, all sorts of stuff. And which kind of leads me to Nate Winicki here, who actually writes our articles on our offshore channel. So why don't you tell these guys about that?
Yeah. So, Nate Winicki here. Super happy to be on the show. Thank you, Mike, for having me.
For coming.
So I'm pretty new to the BD community. I'm a pro contributor. I've been writing for the site for a little over 6 months now, and it's been a great look into the corporate side of fishing, because I work at a little shop. I work at Pacific Coast Bait Tackle and Oceanside, which has shown me kind of how to sell tackle and kind of the business side of it. But BD has shown me the media side of it, which is completely different, and it's set up a bunch of new kind of challenges within my own fishing, because it's not only about catching the fish now, it's about sharing it in a way that's it's fun for everybody to see, and it's relatable for everybody. So it's been great for me to be on the site, and I'm hoping to do more with it soon.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's cool about like BD is, like, you guys are younger. You're both in your 20s, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be 41 in just a couple days here. So I'm from the older crew. I remember before it was BD, it was just Bloody Decks. Like,
Yeah.
there was Bloody Deck stickers like
Everywhere.
anybody, even if you don't know fishing,
Oh, yeah.
everybody knows the Bloody Deck sticker.
Yeah.
And it was like, what is that? Like,
Mhm.
I remember in my 20s, like going to the forums, and it was like the Wild West.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it was nuts.
Yeah.
So and this was
Yeah.
like pre-internet days. Like, forums were the place to go. There was no Discord, there was no YouTube, and I remember
Yeah.
going to like Bloody Decks, and it was like I'd go on boats, charter boats. I was like an offshore guy. I'd fish lakes sometimes. You know, and I'd only fish. For me, it was like I'd only fish a couple times a year with my uncles and stuff, and it was like that's when I got out. But I really got the bug for it. I go to Catalina like twice a year. They charter a boat. But I remember going to Bloody Decks. That's what it was. It was BD wasn't even thinking. It was like you
Yeah.
go to Bloody Decks, and it was just like chaos. But it's cool how it's like the fact that it's been able to grow and expand, like to change with the times. You know, I think
Yeah.
that's really impressive. And rebrand, and then you just kind of stay relevant
Yeah,
over all these years. You see so
absolutely.
many places that are, especially from those old times of the internet, it was like they just didn't last. You know,
Yeah.
and they kind of stuck to the same formula. So it's impressive that they're bringing in young guys like you. That
Yeah.
so shout out to the upper management, like Ollie, bringing in young people to handle it
Yeah.
instead of just letting the old guard kind of fade away. you know?
Yeah, well, I
Seriously.
mean, well, yeah. So I'm sure some of you guys might know it's 2023. BD started in 2003, so we had our 20th year anniversary party at a BNS brewery this past May.
Mhm.
So back when you guys were going on and it was just the forums and it was the
Yeah.
Wild Wild West, that's
Yeah.
because Jason and Ali both came from a video game background. I think Jason worked at Atari, and Ali either worked at Atari or something similar, and they were tired of all these BS forums, and they were like, you know what, we want a non-censored, legitimate place for fishermen to be fishermen and interact with each other without any judgment or any this or any that, and yeah, it went from a fishing forum into a full-blown content media hub now. You
Yeah,
know, like
Absolutely.
forums are still kicking. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
Forums are
They're
still.
still huge.
Oh yeah, you know, a lot of our traffic. I mean, a lot of the main views of the site are in the forums because people still do need a place to interact. You know, Instagram, social media, of course, has kind of taken over fishing. But like, for example, our 20th anniversary shirt has a gaffed tuna shaking with the blood on it,
Right.
and it got flagged on Facebook. And it's a cartoon.
Really?
It's a cartoon.
Right.
Wow.
It got
That's-
flagged and taken off of Facebook.
Somebody
Thanks.
flagged
So
it.
it's-
Yeah.
So exactly. So BD still exists because it is BD. You know, BD Outdoors had to happen. It couldn't continuously be Bloody Decks.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know,
It's
but
a change, but that's to you guys saying it. The fact that it's evolved and with the local knowledge, like all this stuff that
Yeah.
it is. So did you guys, as fishermen, like tell me a little bit about like your fishermen growing up? Did you like aspire to be part of BD? Did it just kind of happen? Because you see that a lot. Like a lot of guys, I see it in the comments, like your guys' comments, like hire me sort of thing, or like
Yeah.
yo, what's up? You know, this show. You see that a lot. So it's
Yeah.
like,
yeah.
what led you to it? Did you seek out working for BD, or did it just fall into your lap, or like was it work? Like, was it a goal? I guess I'm asking
Yeah.
that you worked towards.
I mean, for me, it's a little bit different. You know, I wasn't really a big fisherman growing up. I started fishing because I needed a job to get me away from playing football. I basically was like, second year of college football, couldn't do it anymore. Body was killing me. And I had a buddy up in Alaska, and he was like, yo, I made a killing last summer doing this. Come up. You know, I might not be able to get you a job right away, but I'll show you the ropes. We'll catch some fish. And after that summer, I was like, okay, this is tight. And I moved back down to San Diego, and started cooking on the Prowler. And then that's how I found out about Bloody Decks, because I would read reviews about how good my boat burgers were.
Oh, that's cool, yeah,
And
That's awesome.
yeah, so shout out to Griffin on the American Angler for getting me the first job in Alaska, and then shout out to Austin or works for Pinnacle, runs a boat for Dwayne.
Nice.
Got me a job on the Prowler, him and Jake Luz.
That's right.
So yeah, so I ended up on the Prowler for a few years. Worked with Buzz for a while. Worked with Andrew. I was on the boat when it went down, and then I left. Moved out.
The boat sank?
We ended up
Or
we got hit by a mega yacht.
Crazy
Oh,
story.
really?
Yeah,
I never even.
yeah.
That's a whole
That's-
episode
that's a
in
whole-
itself.
yeah,
we'll
that's a
have
whole
to bring you
episode
on.
itself,
We'll have
yeah.
to bring you on for that one.
Wow.
I've never
Yeah,
heard
you
that.
know,
one.
Absolutely. About look it up. Prowler. It's
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
insane.
Yeah, it was a crazy ordeal. But I already had plans to leave the country. I was gonna move to Australia. My girlfriend was doing her master's in marine biology, so we left for 2 years, and after that experience, I was like, I'm never fishing again, man. This sucks. I'm not dying on a sport boat. You know?
Yeah, right.
But then I moved back 2 years later, and I had some, bullshit job for some marketing company, and I hated it. And next thing you know, Bloody Decks pops up on LinkedIn, and sent him my resume. I was like, hey, I've been doing this marketing, but also, by the way, I've been sport fishing for the past, 4, 5, 6 years.
Right.
And so I mean, I'd known about Bloody Decks for 8 years or so. Didn't really know that they. Well, as I saw the LinkedIn post, I was like, wait, this is not a fishing forum. Like the forums is like 1/15 of what goes on in PD.
Yeah.
I mean, now like there's travel guides, there's charter page, sport boat page, reports. There's all sorts of different stuff, and so yeah, it's kind of for me. I guess it just kind of fell into my lap, man. Shout out to LinkedIn.
Yeah. So you just found the job opening and hit it up. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, well, I was like, I'm sure a lot of people feel this way. You come out of school and stuff, or you do a trade or whatever you do, and you're like, yeah, I want to work for a company that I like and that respects me as well. And for me, it was either going to be surf, skate, or fish. And I found Bloody Decks, and they have been great to me ever since. So I don't see myself anywhere else. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And I heard a little bit about your story, but why don't you go tell them? I know you're telling me you got a pretty cool story, so. Tell us how you found
so these guys. I've been fishing along the coast here since I was 6 or 7 years old. My dad grew up a sport boat captain. He first was up in Marina del Rey, and then he was down in San Diego. So I've grown up on party boats. I grew up fishing, and it became sort of my life in the past. Really became my life in the past kind of 3 or 4 years now since I started working at the tackle shop. And at the tackle shop, I got into all of these different sort of opportunities or met these people that allowed me to fish different fisheries that I never thought possible. And one of them was deep drop sword fishing last year. I committed a lot of time to deep drop sword fishing because at first it was a complete pipe dream to me. It was just something that was a fantasy, but I knew some guys and I was like, I'll go out for free. I'll do whatever you want. And I want to at least see one of these things and have that experience. And through many, many trips, and going out there, I finally got one. And I'm a writing major. I graduated from Cal State San Marcos last year with a writing degree. And the only reason I did that was because that's what I was good at. I didn't really know what I was going to do professionally. But after that, I wrote about my whole sword fishing experience, posted it on Bloody Decks, the forums. And I had known about BD, but I had not really been an active contributor. Just because I had known, it had sort of an infamous feel to it. I knew that people were kind of sharks on there, and I didn't know how people were going to take this. Because I tried to be as vague and kind of telling the story and not giving away with sword fishing because it's a very fine line when you're talking about that. Of course. So, try not to tread on too many people's toes, but. The amount of support and love I got from that post blew me away. Everybody was so stoked on my experience, how I shared it, that I got it, that I persisted, that it was really rad. And I kept looking into the company, and I kept writing a couple more forums, and I got in touch with the staff, and they were like, hey, we love your stuff, and if you wanted to do some freelance writing, we'd love to have you on. And for me, that was the coolest moment because without even trying, I had created something to use my degree with, and it's something that I'm super passionate about, and it's a lead into a potential career into sport fishing, which is something that I was not really prepared for, but I'm so down to get
into. But you were already working. You were working at the tackle store prior, right?
Yeah, so I pretty much I worked through. And also huge shout out to Steve Carson from Penn. When I was 15, he brought me on. Not 15, I was 16. He brought me on as one of the youngest pro staff members for the Penn team because I was going with him on the Vagabond every year on this 5-day trip, and he was so stoked to see me just kind of getting into fishing that I started going into trade shows and stuff like that, and then he got me in touch with Walt, the owner of PCBT, and that was kind of my start in the So it was all really through Steve that I got into this. So huge shout out to him. I really owe a lot to him, and He's been a great mentor through this. If you guys know him, Tuna North on he's very active on BD.
Yeah, I feel like anyone in the industry.
If you don't know Steve,
yeah.
come on. Look up Steve Carson. He is the man.
Talking about a charter master.
Yeah,
every
he's
time
charter
charters a trip,
He's
man.
the master charter master.
Wow.
He has it down to a science. If you ever have the chance to do a Penn University trip with Steve Carson, please do it, because that guy is going to inspire you. I mean, like, he was one of my kind of role models in fishing for sure. That's kind of how I got started. So I've been writing, bi-weekly about everything that I kind of know of. I've done fishing from offshore stuff to halibut and bay bass, in the harbors. So I try to cover everything. I try to kind of, use my expertise and kind of share and, some articles, and I'm hoping to put some more video out soon.
Yeah, that's cool. Because what's cool is like it's almost like anything. I was talking about these guys last time when I had Lane on the show, and it was like how it's a relational business. Like
it is.
Almost everything is, but you hear that about most industries, right? Like most things you just gotta show up. You gotta be there. You gotta get on a boat. You gotta go work at a tackle store. You gotta write articles. You gotta put yourself out. And get noticed a little bit, And I think that's the one key that kind of falls into everything, because I see a lot of the people. I know there's a lot of young people that want to get into the industry, so that's why it's just good advice. I would just tell them, like, you just show up to events, show your face, write articles, go to forums. Like you gotta put in a little bit of the work and shake some hands and
I'm just butting into it. I'm very new into the industry. And what I'm realizing is that's a pretty daunting thing to get into. It's a competitive field, and there's going to be a lot of people going for it. But if you're consistent with it, and you know what you want to do, and you just keep on track, it's absolutely possible.
Yeah, he's got to beat ChatGPT if
you're
keep writing.
You don't even need the writer.
But in all seriousness, guys, if you haven't seen like our actual offshore channel, and if you're into long range fishing, one of my favorite articles that you wrote is the offshore or the long range checklists, or whichever the title was. Check out some of the articles that Nate's written for us. They'll really help you guys out. Really good.
It's been great. It's been really, really fun writing for the site.
Awesome. So you guys are doing the let's talk a little bit about like the charters and stuff. So this was something that Bloody Decks did, right? And then they kind of faded away. And
so I think
now they're coming back.
Yeah, so Ali told me that they used to do it as an actual charter, and then they would sell the tickets individually, which actually we are doing on the Grande later in July. But as of right now, because I'm one of the fewer guys in the office that come from the sport boat side of things, we have a lot of charter and private boat kind of guys. We're like, hey, we want to get back into sponsored trips, and because I'm the event coordinator, it's like, all right, talk to captains people and I'm good friends with Lori Mueller, who's with Jeff Jessup, who owns the Apollo. I work for Andrew on the Pacifica.
She made us cookies. Shout out, by the way.
Yeah, thanks for the cookies.
Thank you, Lori.
Alec on the Pegasus. He used to run the Grande. Good friends with him as well. And so... and then of course the Grande crew with Chad, Tony, Tyler, all those guys. So basically, the trips work in a way is we come on, we usually bring 2 to 4 people, and we show up with a bag for everybody. Every angler who's coming on is getting a shirt and a hat, a couple stickers.
A lot of good swag. Dude.
Shout out to Surface Sunscreen. Everyone gets sunscreen. Everyone gets
the hats and stuff.
Hats.
Cool.
Costa hat. A new BD shirt and a jig from Mike or whatever. And
makes it worthwhile,
Yeah, it makes it worthwhile. Sometimes we have a photographer. Sometimes we do the iPhone. This time you guys did the GoPro stuff, which if you guys haven't seen, he's made a video. There'll be something on our Instagram, probably midday tomorrow, just kind of a highlight of that, which will be really cool. And then what we do is we turn it into an article. We have an article series called the On Deck series. So right now we have On Deck with the Shogun, which is a 4-day trip that we did last year.
It's a really, really cool piece.
That article's awesome. And then On Deck with the Pegasus was actually my first experience writing a full article, which came out probably about a month ago. And that was our trip on the Pegasus in early April, right when the little football tennis started biting. And we just absolutely waxed them in
You
like
guys
3
had-
hours.
You guys had an insane fight.
It was mental.
We got
nuts.
some good. We actually, our boat got some. I went out in April and I got some. There was some decent fish. I got like a 50-pounder, but yeah, they were
Yeah.
a little bit better than the footballs. Then they faded out.
You guys
the last
got
month
the
they kind of
footballs
disappeared
thick.
a little bit. But
Yeah.
And it's like catching those on 80-pound, you're like
Yeah,
jackpot,
exactly.
dude. It's like
skipping them
Yeah.
on top
hot
of
and
the
heavy,
water.
bro. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, so the article series, the on deck series, which will be really cool, is you guys will see there's going to be 2 for the Apollo. There's going to be an on deck series, Apollo Long Beach, and then there's going to be the on deck Apollo San Diego because they moved down to Seaforth in July. Well, they'll stay until December. So I'll write an article about this trip with all the photos and videos that we took, and then I'll do the same for our trip in July that we have coming up. Unfortunately, if you're looking to get on that trip, it's already sold out. So
Next one.
yeah, next one.
Keep in tune for the next one.
But yeah, I mean, we got a couple on the Pacifica, we got a couple on the Grande. BD's only run by 8 to 12 people, so they come as they go. And the second we put those trips up, they get booked. So keep an eye out, stay in tune on the site. We're one thing. If you got little kids you like to bring out, I convinced Andrew on the Pacifica to do a 3/4 day for the kids. That's going to be in the middle of August, so we're gonna kind of sell it and market it as like a I don't want to say father son because I don't want to discriminate, mother daughter, son daughter, whatever, parent child.
Parent child.
We're gonna try to make
something.
Sell the 2-piece ticket as a bundle. Bring your kid out. If there's some local top water species, but if not, let's just get the kids on the water and get some fish and get some content and
That's how I got started. Yeah. That's
do
awesome.
Do you end up on this trip or do you go on like the other trips or like the trip that I went on with you guys? Is it like how'd you wind up on? Do you guys all go on the trips together or?
So
How does that all work
I kind
out?
of lucked out on that one. So
Me
basically for me, because I am doing the events and I'm know most of the captains, I've basically been able to go on all of them. The Shogun last year, I got lucky with the last minute cancellation, and they were like, "Oh, send Cameron instead." And then this year, because I coordinated most of them, I get to go and usually bring either a photographer or somebody else from the company, and then a rep from whoever's helping out or something like that. And Nate was able to come on this one mainly because you do so much for us writing wise, and you have that GoPro skill, which is something that like
I've been trying to.
us in our office, like we don't, no one, everyone knows how to navigate it, but we don't have anyone who specializes in that style of fishing, and it's just like so big on YouTube now, man.
So
like,
you're not on like every boat.
No,
like every time.
No.
Okay.
No, I might be, but
Probably not.
You might be.
I'm still getting into
Okay.
this
Yeah.
whole community.
well, he's got his
I
boat
was-
on the Grande. I told you that, right?
No,
Oh yeah,
really?
Yeah, you're on the Grande.
I'm on the Grande.
Yeah,
Sick.
July 24th.
Yeah, awesome. I can do that.
Yeah, so,
But yeah,
Breaking news.
I can do it.
breaking news.
Sick.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I love the sport boats, man. I still fill in on the weekends. Like I still run 2 days and day and a half, so I help out on the Pacifica. I ran.
You do kind of like freelance deckhand work. Still,
Yeah,
right?
I
that's
still
crazy.
do. I mean, it's a hell of a time. It's good money. I think it was a little
you get
bit
on the water.
more. It was a little bit more relaxing when the fish stopped biting when the sun went down. Maybe they never did, but back in the day that you'd wind in the trolling rods, cut the fish, and go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Right.
I'll hop on the Pacifica on a Friday night and I won't sleep.
The whole time,
Yeah.
the whole weekend.
And they
yeah.
offer you. They're like, I'm so amped up because I haven't been fishing all week, and they're like, oh, like it's your time to nap, and I'm like, I don't need a nap. And I'm like, dude, 6 hours later, you're so smoked. Like you have to take the nap when you get it.
That was
But,
freaking crazy.
yeah, so I'll help out on a couple boats here and there if I can. I just like being out there.
That's
I
cool.
love the sport boat stuff.
Speaking of naps, did you guys? The second day we were on the boat.
How
Were
was
you guys, when that
zombie?
anchor like went down,
Oh,
did you guys hear that?
Oh,
I feel like nobody said it. So we were in the staterooms in the front, and it was like
Yeah, we were all
it was
in the
like
stateroom.
6 a.m. But
Yep.
the Apollo dropped anchor. It was like I sat up like the Undertaker, dude. It was like I don't know. It was so loud hearing that
Yeah.
shit.
Because
go
we're
down.
right,
It
we're
was
in
like,
the first
Yeah.
stateroom
Yeah.
next to
We're
the
right there,
anchor
yeah.
dropping. So like we had
No
a full
warning, no
volume,
nothing. It
dude.
was
Yeah.
just like-
There was no like
Yeah.
speaker like, hey guys, we're at the spot. Nothing. It's
But
just
nobody
boom.
nobody said anything. So
Yeah.
there was 4 of us in the room, and nobody like.
It was like,
Yeah.
oh.
So I don't know, like they slept through it. Nobody mentioned it. Nobody talked about it. But it was like,
No,
dude, that was chaos. And
That
it was
was
like
chaos.
so. When you wake up to that, it was just like.
Oh man. Well,
That 3-ton chain just
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
down, man. It was
that
crazy.
night I had terrible sleep because we were trying to fish for bluefin, right? So we had fished all day long for halibut, and that kind of fishing starts at gray. So you start at 5 and you go all the way. So by
Right.
dinner time you're smoked and you want to go to bed. But we were at Clemente. We had a really hopeful stop right before dark.
Mhm.
So I was like, I'm staying up. I'm up. I'm gonna do it, right?
Oh
So
yeah,
I'm like,
you put out. I
dude,
think I
I-
tapped out about an hour before you.
Yeah.
Maybe even 2.
yeah.
Yeah, I was
so,
like, wake me up, brother.
I went to bed early.
You're right.
And
But it was crazy because the whole fleet was on the backside of Clemente. We show up. It was a gamble running, but the group we were with were pretty keen on bluefin, so I could understand why we did it. But we were there. We had a good kind of blow up right at sunset. Nobody hooked up, but I thought we were gonna. And then the fish just scattered. We had one mark.
Was that when you came down? You came down at one point.
I came down at one
Yeah.
point to
And
say,
you woke
hey, we
us up. You
stopped
did,
because
yeah.
the captain came over and said, guys, I'm marking him at 460. And I'm like, ooh. But this was our only stop. It was like 1 a.m.
Yeah.
And this was the first
I
time we
was
stopped.
like kind of getting out, getting ready to get my
Yeah.
boots, and then,
And
then it started.
oh,
I heard
yeah.
the engine turn on again. I just
It was
hopped back in my
terrible,
bunk.
man.
And I was like,
So like literally, because like I didn't want to. If this was the one, I didn't want to be the guy who didn't wake anybody up. So I ran down there. I was like, guys, we're stopped. I run back up. I'm the only one on deck. So I just grab the heaviest jig I see and just drop it because I'm like, if they're 500 feet down, I'm gonna get down there. So I drop all the way down, and as soon as I put it in gear, start winding. He's like, all right, wind him up. I'm like, dang it. So that was our night fishing experience.
Yeah.
But overall, it was I thought it was a pretty productive trip. I had a good time.
I had a great
The
time.
weather was fantastic. Channel Islands is a difficult place. It's so temperamental with the conditions and the weather and everything.
it was a good mix though. Like
It was a fantastic mix.
going from San Nicolas
To Clemente.
like fishing out. Like that was I've never done that. Like we were legit in like 10,
Yeah.
15 feet
No,
of
I
water
saw
on a sport
that
boat.
was-
That dude, that was a
Very
highlight
nuts,
for
dude.
me. Like
The waves were like
Yeah.
breaking.
So-
like
we're 10, 15 feet of
Yeah.
water. There's a perfect point break over here. There's a
Yes.
beach bowl left and right. 10-foot or probably
Yeah.
like 6 foot. But from when
6
we were looking
foot.
at
It
it,
was
just like
pumping.
we're
Yeah.
literally drifting through, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah, it
I'm
was
like,
a
should
good
I
fish.
should I have brought my surfboard? Like
Right?
it's pumping right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so interesting, like with the
The captain be like, all right, drop one 15 feet of water. You're like,
yeah,
that's
man,
crazy.
15 feet
We
of
dropped
water.
down
On
Like,
the Apollo,
like,
right?
this is
Yeah.
a 70-foot boat. Can
Yeah.
we really be in 15 feet of water?
It was like
That
fishing
was,
the
that
bay.
was nuts. That
Yeah.
was nuts.
Yeah, that was.
That was really cool.
That
And
was-
fishing
yeah.
halibut like that close. I'd never done like fishing that close to like a surf in a boat like that.
Yeah,
Like,
no.
that was crazy.
Yeah.
And it was producing big halibut. You caught a giant.
I got my new PB.
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing
so
was massive.
It was an interesting bite because halibut fishing is never wide open, but
Right.
as far as it was going, we were getting 1 or 2 on every drift, so it was pretty good fishing. And I know Cameron, you're not really into that, or just you haven't done that type of fishing because
No.
it was funny. We were talking about that, and Buzz on the Prowler would not let any sort of ground fish on the boat.
No.
Very San Diego type of thinking,
Yeah.
and it's like that's just the way it is,
Yeah.
right? You're a pelagic boat.
Yeah.
So halibut, rockfish, all that bass, nah. So for him, I mean, dude, you were just
Yeah.
learning how to do this
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean,
Interesting.
I did a little bit of halibut fishing in Alaska, and of course with like the how-tos and stuff that BD's done, I know a little bit about it, but like, dude, I haven't actually caught a halibut before this trip 5 or 6 years. So that short bite when I didn't have my stinger rigged right, like
Yeah.
really hurt my feelings, you know? When I pulled it up and saw the teeth mark, and
Oh,
Captain
yeah,
Greg
yeah.
leaned out the window and was
Put a
like,
stinger on that
he's like,
thing.
put a stinger on that. I was like, I thought I did. Like,
I did the same thing too because I pulled up a fish that also had the bites in the back. And I didn't have a stinger on. It was just
Man.
funny because, like I told you, I was like, I'm gonna go I was like, I'm gonna go slow pitch one of these right now. I threw the jig down and caught a halibut.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
On the jig.
I-
It was short. It was like 21 inches. It was close, but
Yeah.
I think that was still
Almost.
cool. Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
super cool.
Jumped it down.
Super cool to see
'Cause
that.
I don't think there was maybe one other fish on the boat. It was when it was really slow.
Yeah.
That was yours were the second fish
Yeah.
after
Yeah,
you
yeah, I
caught.
remember seeing
And
you
We
come
did
down.
a few drifts.
And
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
stoked me out because I was like, wow, okay, they're biting the jigs.
Yeah.
Like, if a 21 incher will bite a jig,
Yeah.
a 20-pounder will eat a jig, dude. Like,
Yeah.
no problem.
100%.
But, so I come from fishing halibut a bunch. I have a little boat. I do drifts in San Diego Bay. I've been doing them since the wintertime. And halibut was kind of my specialty. I go on
Nice.
halibut hunts. It's so much fun. But, so for me, this was like the ultimate. Like, this was literally the exact same rig. Reverse dropper with a sardine, but I was at San Nick, and these were like, there was a chance of a 30, 40 pounder. It wasn't 30, 40 pounds, but I got a 24-pound halibut, which is my new PB on kind of a creation of mine, which is super cool. It's the Warbait's neck breaker. Really, really cool bait. It's an excellent presentation. It's really kind of taking over the swim bait market. Almost every company is coming
We've
out
had
with
Afron
some
on the show,
version of
too,
it.
yeah.
Afron,
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
good on you. So what I did is that they made a 1-ounce version, and we were fishing mostly with live squid and live sardine. But usually they come with this big old EWG, but I switched it out with an Aki twist, and I put a squid on there and was just bumping bottom. And I didn't really know what I was fishing for. I was just trying to do something different.
At this point, we had left the halibut ground.
We had
Remember,
actually
we-
left
we
the
were-
halibut
yeah,
ground.
we
We
were-
weren't,
That's actually
we weren't even
true.
in the
Yeah,
surf.
We
Yeah,
were
we
we
had
were actually
cast.
fishing for sea bass,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
thought I hooked
exactly.
I thought I hooked the sea bass.
Exactly.
We were going for sea
So-
bass and yellowtail. We
So
were kinda
I
in
lightened
kelp.
up. Yeah, I was fishing 15-pound, and because we were still only in 30 feet of water, so
Yeah.
I could hit bottom with this 1-ounce weight pretty easily. And I was just bumping along, and I just get hit a couple times, and especially with halibut and sea bass, you don't set the hook, you just wind into them, which is what I did. And I was like, dude, I can't believe it, but I'm on. Because I was just
Right.
daydreaming, dude. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden I get on, and it starts peeling line. It goes straight out like classic sea bass. And then it just dies, and then it's just rug. And then I'm
Yeah.
just winding in dead weight. And it was so classic. It came up perfect.
Oh,
Shout out
man.
Dominic, the deckhand on the
Oh,
Apollo.
yeah.
He gave me 2 tips. At the beginning of the trip, he was like, yo, first thing you got to do, fish a drop release with the squid and drag it. I did that, and I caught a 26 incher in the morning. And then he was like, yo, switch to the lead head. I got a feeling. No shit, you said that.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So I did that, and I caught my new PB.
Yeah.
So
You got 2.
thank you, Dominic.
That's
Yeah,
two.
I got
That
2.
was- yeah.
I got
Yeah.
2.
Pretty good.
So I had an excellent day.
Yeah, heck yeah.
But that was my zone. I was very dialed into that kind of fishing. So
That's cool.
it was a very fun trip.
Ooh,
Highly recommend any sort of BD charter. It's cool to have, first off, to see the guys that you always see online and to talk with them,
Mhm.
but also, to get some of the swag, because like we're saying, first off, it's a limited load, which always makes it
Yeah.
nicer. You have a little
Yeah.
more space at the rail.
Mhm.
Typically, the fishermen on these kind of trips are a little bit higher quality too. I met some really good anglers
Yeah.
on this trip,
Mhm.
and we try to make it worth your while, giving you some swagger, at the very least some good intel and a good
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, shout out to Yusef, Ollie's brother. He
Yep.
brought a couple of his buddies. They all knew what they were doing.
Uh-huh.
And that makes it nice when you're on a trip. And,
Yeah, I don't think there was any newbies.
No, I mean,
No.
Maybe that lady that was on there, but
She
was
caught
She's
one-
20-pound
got a-
halibut.
yeah,
She
got a
got
huge
a
halibut
freaking.
too,
She
yeah.
got one of the biggest ones on the boat.
That's
So
the thing.
it was a really good.
but
Yeah,
even
so
she had
is-
gone fish. She had been on boats already.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But even that, it's just it was a good group of people. No one's upset, and
Yeah.
I mean tangles happen on any trip, but
It wasn't like a tuna trip.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, it wasn't.
That was like chaos.
Yeah, I
One
mean,
cool
even-
tuna wants to know: are you going to be on the Vagabond? Nate, are you going to be on the Vagabond?
Oh, I
trip?
sure am. Yep, I'm gonna be on
There
the Penn 6-day trip.
Is it one cool tuna?
Yeah.
One cool tune, Mr. Jeff.
Shout
Jeff
out.
in the house.
Shout out Jeff.
OCTs.
Great
I'll see you at
jigs.
the LTEL shootout. I
Yeah.
got your, which one do I have? That red, the surface iron, the red one that gets absolutely smoked. I love that thing.
Yeah, we were
Yeah,
talking to
you make some great stuff.
Jeff's another believer in the colors don't matter. We were
Yeah.
talking about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Makes a
Mark
good product,
Yamamoto,
though.
welcome to the show. Yeah, Jeff said, "What's going on, guys?"
Yeah. Yeah,
know.
I mean, it is what it is. Like, I don't know. It's like colors do matter, but maybe they don't matter. I don't know. Like if you're a full speed deckhand, you'll never think a color matters. But then again, all of a sudden, one single jig's getting bit left and right, then you're kind of questioning
Right.
it. It's the same thing. Like I heard you guys talking about the moon phases.
Yeah,
It's you and Kevin talking about the moon. It's like yes, but at the same time, like
No, yeah.
if the fish is gonna bite, it's gonna bite. It really doesn't matter. Like you know.
Color matters.
There's
It
so
matters
many
if it matters
things.
to you, right? Like,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It really does.
Yeah.
I mean, there has to be some.
And it
we,
depends on the bite too.
we know fish can see color,
Yeah.
so they can. It's whether it changes deeper. I mean, that's a whole nother story,
Yeah.
but I'm sure there is something to it. But I don't.
I mean, if fish
I don't know
couldn't
much
see
about
color, they would all be one color, right?
Yeah.
There's a reason that they're counter shaded because they can all see each
The
other.
color they can see, but it's the visibility that becomes the problem. Because
Yeah.
even though they actually have really good sight, but the water's murky, and by the time the sand kicks up, and
Yeah.
then it really is diminished at that point. So it doesn't matter if you can see. If the visibility's a foot, 2 feet, then that's all they can see. Anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole debate whether color matters, I think it's never gonna like end. There's never gonna be a consensus to it. The best little bit that I ever read on it was actually from a largemouth bass book, and this guy like looked at bass fishing in like this religious sort of way. It's called, his name's Bill Murphy. In Pursuit of Giant Bass is the Bible of bass fishing, in my opinion. It is an amazing book. But what he does is that he kind of just, his kind of philosophy is that it's not a particular design, or it's not a particular shade. It's base colors. It's like if they're eating
Right,
shad
like a
that
shade.
have, like
Right.
tinges of blue in it. It doesn't need to be that exact blue. It doesn't need to look exactly like a shad. But if it's moving through the water and it shows little blue highlights, it mimics that bait fish. And it's not about mimicking it perfectly, but it's about getting the fish to react and about getting the fish to get into a feeding mode, right? So, like, I've seen on yellowtail sometimes where if they're really keyed into Spanish mackerel, it's not just the jig, but matching something that kind of goes with it.
Right.
A scrambled egg pattern is not the only thing that's going to get bit, but sometimes you get less followers and more bites, Like, it's certain things that you can kind of, like, tweak into a bite. And again, when they're biting stupid, they bite anything.
Yeah.
And sometimes they only want one type of jig.
Yeah.
And it's majority of the time, it's the action over the color.
Yeah.
But if color gives you personal preference, if it gives you confidence, then I say go for it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a favorite color.
He says, I'm late to the party. Is there any date for the submission half day? No, there's not. Somebody else was asking me about that too. So
Oh, I saw that. When are you guys doing that?
I got to look into some boats. Somebody else asked me about
you're
that today
trying
on
to find a boat
Instagram.
to do it.
Yeah. And it's hard too because they're already late.
Yeah.
Not late in the season, but a lot of the charge. But we can do it a
one?
half day. I'm open to
Yeah.
pretty much anything, yeah.
I could probably get Andrew to do it for you on the Pacifica.
Yeah?
Yeah,
I'd be down for
come
that.
in like 1 day and a half morning. I'll probably run a half day for you.
Dude, that'd be great.
That'd
let
be
me know.
awesome.
Hook us up.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
I want to get these guys on there. Mark Yamamoto said, I just recently went on my first deep sea fishing, but it caught 0. Yeah, dude.
Oh, bro, it happens.
Hey, welcome
Yeah.
to the club.
Yeah. Especially if you went for bluefin.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
God.
when I
tough.
first started fishing bluefin, like, it was like 3 trips I think I went
It
on
was rough.
before I caught a bluefin. It was like,
I remember being
it
extremely
was a lot
frustrated
of trips.
at my beginning of my bluefin career.
I mean, imagine my perspective, man. I wasn't even a fisherman. I was a deckhand. So
Mm-hmm.
everyone on the boat was a better fisherman than me. All I could do was tie a strong RP, a strong San Diego, a strong UDD uni, and really gaff a fish.
Right.
Sorry, I don't know what I can and can't say here. So I went probably when I first started working with Buzz, it was when my first season, like the biggest bluefin in San Diego was like 40 pounds, 50
Wow,
pounds,
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
So like,
Mhm.
so we didn't even chase tuna. We didn't even bother. Like if yellowfin were around, yeah, but like we spent most of our time down the beach fishing patties for Dorado and yellowtail.
Yeah.
So I think I probably went 3 or 4 months as a deckhand without ever even catching a tuna. So everyone's always telling me these
No
stories
kidding.
of the albacore and
Right.
this bluefin, this yellowfin. They're asking me what's my PB. I'm like, I've never caught a tuna. They're like, how do you work on a sport boat if you've never caught a tuna? I'm like, well,
No, the basics.
it'll happen eventually. And then
Mhm.
now I think my PB is a 297. Caught on a flat fall on the backside of
That's pretty
Clemente,
good, dude.
and it absolutely destroyed my lower back. But
No kidding.
I bet.
the year of the flat fall was that 2016, 2017? When the glowing
Really?
bars?
Yeah,
No
yeah.
kidding. Like one of
Yeah.
the first
The
years you
Shimano.
almost
Yeah.
got a 300 pounder.
Yeah, that was right.
Jesus.
It was when like the super cows like were very, very rare. Like
Yeah.
anything over 250 was like headline news. Yeah, I was actually working and dropped the jig for the guy because he was like, I'm over it. And I was like, there's ones here. It was in the middle of the night. There's 2 people up. Hooked it for him, handed it to him, and he was like, I can't do it. And I was like, all right, well, this is my fish then.
This
and
is my time.
Kicked my ass for about an hour and a half, maybe 2. And
That's
then,
cool.
Yeah.
Dude, this is a trip, but
Yeah.
I think there might be a photo of that fish at PCBT underneath, like,
Really?
the desk. Like, you know, like
Really?
where you check out?
Yeah.
I was looking, I was like, that's Cameron. Dude, you're there.
No way.
Dude, next time dude,
That's-
it's you with 3 guys with this big tuna.
That's
It's
funny.
like
That's
at
probably
least
it.
200 pounds.
That's
And I was
funny.
like,
That's
wait
hilarious.
a second. It's from like at least 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
And I was like, Doc, I know that guy. What the heck?
Yeah, that's funny.
So
the year
funny.
of the flap, I'll never forget that, man. Every sport
That's some
boat went
historic
from.
stuff. That's cool.
Remember the boats used to not really be that well lit either.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, LED lights everywhere.
Everywhere.
Everyone's hanging all glow in the dark, this, that, and the other. And
They're like what is it? Like charging their jigs in the
Yeah,
light, you know? You hold it
exactly.
up and then you drop it down.
Yeah.
Craziness,
Oh
man.
man, yeah, that was nuts.
That was the start. And it was funny because at that point, people thought that if you did not have a 300-gram glowing flat fall, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
There was no point in dropping anything else.
Well-
And then the markets just started expanding,
Well, so you
right?
think back now, like, what if we were knife jigging?
Dude,
back then?
what if
what
you
if
were
you
knife
were
jigging?
dropping? What if
Right.
you were dropping the
Oh, yeah.
that 400 or 500, 600 grammer
That's what
straight
I'm saying.
down?
It's
Dude,
amazing
you would
how
have
the
gone
fishing...
right through those small ones, and you would have been on the super cow.
Dude, it
every
would've been
single
amazing.
time.
We were
Mhm.
talking about the. I talked about that a little bit. I was on the CCA podcast. You were on it too.
Yes.
I think after me, but I had talked about that. That I think people are like, oh, these cows and they're here. I think they've always kind of been here. We just never fished, either knew they were down there
Yeah.
or knew how to get to them or fished them with the knife jigs and the slow pitch jigs. So I think
I think there's cycles.
it's relatively new, but I
Yeah.
think we just didn't
Yeah.
fish for them
Well,
before, because unless they were foaming or boiling, we didn't even bother, right? It was like
Yeah.
Nighttime
nobody
fishing.
was
That's-
dropping deep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean,
Like at night, it was maybe
Yeah.
some people, but
I mean,
You're
there's a credit where credit's due. There's one single captain in the fleet who kind of changed the game, and that's Aliar on the Polaris Supreme.
was he the first
Mm.
one that like
Well, not the first one. There's plenty of other guys who done it, and
he
so
brought like
I-
notoriety to it.
He would night drive on the Prowler. I got to work with him a few times. He is a fish nut. Like, he barely sleeps. He's an insane fisherman. I would be glassing at night just on my watch, and I'd be like, what is he doing? And he would just be dumping scoops out of the slammer off the back of the boat. And I'm like, what is he doing over there? Next thing you know, I wake up in the morning, it's like, they caught 40 fish in the middle of the night last night. Like,
Wow.
who's chumming in the middle of the night?
Right. Yeah.
And next thing you know, all these other captains, because everyone talks, and
Sure.
you know, it's an industry where he's friends with Gavin on the PQ, with Andrew, with Matt on the San Diego, and you know, I guess they're probably not fishing as much tonight on the San Diego, but it's like, okay, guys, like, you know, they're here. I know you mark them deep, but like,
Right.
you don't even need to drop it. Just throw a jig in its face. And so I
Yeah,
wonder
yeah.
how long have they actually been here? It just took
Right.
someone to be like, I don't want to go to sleep tonight. I want to fish.
100%.
Yeah.
I think a
Like,
long time. And
Yeah.
It's
It just
a
takes
lot longer than
somebody
we've been
figures
doing
it out, and then
It takes one person to change the game like that.
Yeah.
And Aliar especially. I mean, I think it was last year or the year before, I look at the numbers and I'm like, how is this possible?
Yeah.
I thought he was almost lying, man. I mean, I was like,
Yeah.
dude, no one was catching, and the Polaris Supreme again got limits.
Yeah.
And it's just, he's figuring out a different way of fishing, and he's a guy's a hunter. I mean,
Yeah.
he's out there all the time.
Corey King said, "What's the
Huge
current
respect.
record for bluefin tuna on the Ogre?" I'm not sure. The guys from Tackle Express did a trip with them, and they killed some cows for sure. I don't know if they got. I'll have to ask them for actual weights, but it was definitely one of those guys. They went last year. They were dropping the ogres and just pulling into absolute monsters. But I don't know the number for sure.
What's that middle
I'll
one
have to
behind
find
you?
out.
Is that a 600?
Yeah, the 600 grammer.
Those are massive.
That's what we were dropping. We were doing like the rockfish.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
Jesus.
I don't know why it looks so much bigger on the wall.
Probably the
Ah,
pack-
that was
probably the-
scary. Yeah.
The packaging, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think these little 80 grammers are fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
They're
Just a
super
little-
good action, especially with the little squid
squid hookies.
Yeah, dude.
I mean, I saw a picture of a 25 pounder with the ogre in its mouth, and then a 200 pounder with the ogre in its mouth.
Yeah.
And it's like crazy to me that the
So
25 pounder, the jig's like half the size of the fish.
So me and Kevin, we brought him in. So we brought in the ogres like last year. anyways, when we started submission fishing, right, we ran into the whole supply issue that everybody else did, right? Like getting product, the port was backed up.
Oh yeah.
And we had stuff ordered, and we had this design ready, and it was like we didn't get this stuff till like the end of July. Ooh. My daughter was born, and we came home, and there was just a box of like jigs out there, and we had been waiting for like 6 months probably.
Really?
And they were finally here, and it was like, so we were really late to the game last year. So, but anyways, because our whole concept was to use the big jigs. The idea is to get down fast, because normally when a school comes through, the first people that are there, they get bit. Like, you know, when there's 2 people hook up, and then you wait for them to pull their fish in, because the school comes, they eat, and they go. At night, typically. So my whole thing was, well, me and Kevin came up with this, and Kevin was like, no, dude, you need to make like a jig bigger than anybody's making, so we can get down there first and get bit. And so we went out, and everybody's like, oh, nobody's gonna eat that thing. 200 is too big. And so Kevin caught a 25-pounder. It happened, so we went on a trip. Yeah. And he caught the only bluefin of the entire trip. And the captain was like, they're like 400 feet deep. Kevin dropped the 600 ogre like a rocket, pitched it once, and he got bit. And it was only a 25-pounder, but that was more significant than catching a cow, because it proved that
little fish.
If a little fish, and it slurped this thing, like only the eye was like sticking out. It like
really,
yes.
It on a jig like that, no kidding.
A 25-pounder, only the eye was showing. So it slurped the whole thing.
That's amazing.
Just the tip was sticking out of its mouth.
Because we were talking about that, right?
So we were like, so I thought it was more significant, because we're like, it's proof that it's not too big at all. Because if a 25-pounder is going to slurp it like that, big
anything can eat that thing.
And I have a picture on my Instagram too. I went out this year. Earlier, I caught a 50-pounder, but I also caught a little football. And then with the 600, and the jig was like longer than the fish.
Yeah.
It was laying on the side, and the jig was as long as the fish was, and it came and got it. It was why a little 10-pounder just came and swiped it. But it's like,
I think that all weaves in though with the same thing as we were saying about the color thing, right? So it's like, from my experience, color, whatever, it's usually just the first one down. Yeah, right? Like, so the last trip I worked on the Pacifica, everyone's fishing 200, 250 gram jigs, and no one's getting down quick enough. One guy's getting bit, and we're literally over so much meat. And then the school feathers out, breaks up, drops, and then leaves, and they're not feathering and staying around us. And if anyone ever fishes the Pacifica, or if you plan to, when Andrew rolls up on the school, or if Dano's around the boat, or Jake, or whoever, literally go up there with a 350 to a 600 gram jig, toss it 10 feet off the port side of the bow, put it in free spool, and by the time you get to the stern, you're going to be bit. And I literally looked at the cook, and I was like, next fish I'm hooking, watch this. Because everyone's fishing these lighter jigs. And they're like, these guys, we had this group of dudes who were like so techie, like every stop, changing this and that, this color, that color. They were so concerned, and I was just like, dude, it's not about that. It's like, all you got to do is get down there.
Get in front of them.
Yeah, or not stand on the stern and just drop it straight down and scope all your way out. Like, you got to know the way the boat's going to drift.
You let 300 feet of line out, but you only went 100 feet down.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, right.
Exactly, especially like the Pacifica slides bow first until it stops, and then it'll go back to a stern. So if you chuck it off the bow right when he kicks it back, you'll literally go, and then you run down the rail and just tell everyone, heads up, heads up, heads up. When it finally stops, boom, you're 300 feet deep and bit, and you haven't even hit the back rail yet.
Yeah, it's so awesome.
It's just, first person down, man.
Plus, it's like, you gotta get over the fact that it's like, people like with the jigs that we fish, right? Like, it's just a piece of metal, but the fish doesn't know that we know it's a piece of metal, but the fish doesn't know it's a piece of metal.
Just try to make it look as lively as you can,
A fish, so when it eats something big like that, if it's another fish, it doesn't worry that it's bigger, because it's pliable. It can eat it. It knows it has flesh. Like, it's not worried about it. It doesn't know it's a piece of lead.
Yeah.
So that's why
interesting.
It's not like we know it's a piece of lead. So we get in our own heads about it and be like, but when it sees this, if it knew it was a piece of lead, it wouldn't go after it. Yeah. It just thinks it's a fish. It's a big fish.
Yeah.
It's a reaction.
And it can eat it. It can bite its head. It can eat it in 2 pieces. It doesn't have to eat it just in one slurp, right? Yeah. So it's like a fish doesn't. It thinks that it's eating another fish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's why, in the way it works, and that's the whole point, is it imitates another fish. But like, we see it and we're like, oh, it's just a 600 gram piece of lead. It's not going to work. But it's like, the fish doesn't understand that.
Yeah.
It just thinks it's another big fish and is going to get a fat meal. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a good tip about night fishing too. I think a lot of people think that it's just drop down, you wind up, you drop down, you wind up. But there are some things you can do to put yourself above everybody else. There's not a lot of guys that go up to the bow. There's always a big cluster in the stern, and
Dude, I hate that.
you don't need to do that, right? So
I don't go anywhere
Yeah.
near.
Yeah.
and like
Where
ask the
everybody else is at,
deckhands
yeah.
how the boat drifts.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
they know.
Okay, so there's the thing.
And-
So the prowler drifted stern first.
Yeah,
So like you pitch it off the slide, and then you'd follow it up, and you would get bit right by the head because the heads were up towards the bow.
yeah.
Pacifica's the exact opposite. And
Mhm.
Andrew, because I didn't work on the Pacifica for when he first got it, he actually ran it for a whole year and a half while I was in Australia. When I came back, I was like, yo, how do I get bit on this boat? He was like the exact opposite of the prowler. He was like, instead of pitching it off the corner of the stern and following it up, pitch it right over the anchor and follow it back. And it's
That's one tip that can
yeah.
change your whole trip.
Ask the deckhand, how do you get bit on this boat?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah,
and
it's
just
crazy.
try to set yourself up. Be active fishing and kind of this,
Yeah.
Pitch it out, and a lot of the times you'll get bit on the first or second pull. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't take much.
Yeah.
If you get your stuff down to the zone, I mean, these fish, they are very reactive to these jigs.
Mhm.
It's pretty cool.
Jeremy said he's going on my first open water trip next month. Not sure which boat yet, but I'm excited for it. Yeah, dude, good luck. Hopefully you enjoy it. Hopefully it's for you. And those,
Yeah.
if you don't get bit, it's all right.
So,
Just don't get discouraged, and if you do, you'll be hooked for the rest of your life.
Right.
Find a boat. Go start following a couple landings on Instagram, and then
Mm-hmm.
find like a boat that says like one last spot cancellation.
Yep.
Because then you know there's a lot of great boats out there too. I'm not I don't want to badmouth any boats in general, but there's just some boats that just fish better than others, and if you're lucky enough to get a spot on because someone canceled for some reason on a boat like the Polaris Supreme, the American Angler, the Pacific Queen, the Pacifica, like those kinds of boats who are coming back consistently, fishing out to San Diego, the Pegasus, like they're just like consistently producing because they're part of the best code group.
Right.
I don't know. I'm sure I'm forgetting a bunch, but the Apollo, of course.
Nulawan. Yeah.
Nulawan, exactly. Like there's a ton of great boats.
You do your
What about
research.
the Thunderbird? Mark Yamamoto says, do you think the Thunderbird at
Thunderbird.
Newport Landing is a good ship for yellowtail?
Yes, absolutely.
I've never been on
Mr.
Thunderbird,
Jeff
but I've
is
heard-
an
I've
I've heard
excellent
only good things
fisherman.
about the Thunderbird.
Thunderbird
Yeah.
Jeff's
Yes.
he's a good
Thunderbird
dude.
Jeff is excellent.
He's a great fisherman.
Yep.
Great fisherman.
It's awesome.
He's out there probably more than anybody else. So
Mhm.
he knows San Clemente, he knows those islands so well, and they've been doing well recently.
What do you
They've been
say?
on-
Which boat or what kind of trip is good for yellowtail? It's
Depends
hard
on
to
where
say,
you're at.
man. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know it's kind of a cop out answer, but it's like the captains go for different stuff. I mean,
If you're
the
down
San
in
Diego is like
the Coronados are tough to beat
Yeah.
for
Grande,
for the Grande,
the
the San
Liberty,
Diego, something like that.
I mean,
even I went
San
on.
Diego,
I chartered one on the Malahini.
Mhm.
Captain Bill got us
Captain
on.
Bill.
Yeah.
Oh, Captain Bill. Yeah.
We fished all day, and then suddenly it's like it was just the firing line, man. We got on them, and it was
Yeah.
chaos down at
It's
the islands. Yeah, late in the
incredible.
The
year.
thing about the
Yeah.
yellowtail the last 2 years though, it's like it's either on or it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
it's been
you're
kinda
either
scratchy.
getting you might scratch 6 to 12 fish or you're getting 80.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Like if the patties are there, it's pretty easy. If you can find the patty, so they're on patties actually this year early, surprisingly. People
They
have been
had
fighting
a very
on patties,
good little season,
but they kind of.
early on. They kind of
I think they'll come in later. Yeah, it did cool off, but like if you're going for, if they know there's patties and they put beacon, what they do is they put these GPS beacons on the patties, and if
Yeah.
they have a patty that's holding, and you know they've got a beacon, you're in good shape. Like
Mhm.
they'll go find it, and there's usually always yellows on there. They're typically smaller. That's why you hear them called patty yellows.
Mhm.
Or you can go to the islands. It's a little more hit or miss, but you get bigger fish. Like you can put a 40-pound yellowtail on the boat, but it's feast or famine sometimes.
Everything's
you find
about
them, you
conditions,
find them
you
or
know.
you don't. Yeah. it's-
Keep an eye on the counts.
Yeah.
If there's a day that they bite, try to go as soon as you can, because usually there's about a 3 or 4 day bite window where they bite really really well, and it can be long range quality fishing.
Yeah.
It can be
Captain
to
Bill,
the point
make
where
it rain. Corey King went on this trip with us.
Yeah.
Went to the Coronado Islands, and so we were at Coronado Islands, and we couldn't find. We were searching all day. I actually pulled one up on a jig. They were on
Really?
the bottom. I
Really?
slow pitched one.
Really?
Decent size, probably like a 25-30 pounder.
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding,
Right in the mud.
dude.
Like the middle grounds?
Jigging in the
or-
mud. Yeah.
Oh,
And I jigged one up.
No
I was
way.
just slow pitching the bottom, and then
Nice.
we drifted out. Then it was kind of slow. And another guy caught one on a jig as well, on a 60 gram. So we slow pitched too at this one spot,
That's
like
funny.
right in the mud. He said they were down. But anyways, it was kind of slow, and then we found them like kind of off the north end of the island, and they were boiling. And Captain Bill's like, he gets on the radio, and he was like, make it rain. And it was just like, it was so epic. The bait was flying, and it was just like, jigs were like,
hit in the back
surface irons were going out, jigs were going out, and it was like, but people were hooking up, and it was like, it was so slow all day, but finally, it just, it was on the loudspeaker, make it rain, and it was like, people were getting hooked up, and it was like just those moments where it made it all worth it.
That's
it was
so
like,
rad.
People were hooking up, lines were going bent, it was just like, it was pretty awesome. But yeah, everybody remembers that, dude. He was just screaming on the radio to make it rain. And shit was just
I've
flying.
had that happen, dude.
Yeah,
you get hit with sardines. It doesn't matter, bro.
You get hit in the back of the head, yeah. Hit in the back with sardines, and it was awesome. Yeah, but it was such a good trip. It was one of those things where it was just kind of slow. We picked it a few, but then it just blew up at the end of the day. And
yeah,
you just don't know.
That's it, you know, and especially fishing out there, knowing how to fly line a bait. You know, surface iron fishing is kind of that's where I learned how to throw the surface irons, the Coronados. Yeah. And it's an awesome place to learn.
Mark Yamamoto says, I'm thinking of going kayak fishing at La Jolla for yellowtail. What do you think is the best rig to catch them? What kind of live bait should I use? Kevin, I think he answered this question last time. Kevin Nakata's on the show a lot. This dude, he used to be a guy. Like, he was the man. He used to end up saying just fly line a mackerel.
Fly line or slow
paddle
troll?
around.
Slow troll.
Yeah. And also kayak. Check out our kayak fishing forum. We have on BD Outdoors. There's a good fishing forum. Get in there. Literally ask that question. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm sure you're gonna hear, you know, slow troll, mackerel. You know, either nose hook or
I think that's the most reliable.
Collar,
if you could find squid, if the squids are there and the squid beds are there, people are a little secretive about that. So you gotta. If you don't know where they are, you might have a hard time. But you can catch mackerel. Just drop a sabiki. You'll get mackerel for sure.
Absolutely.
Also, I was just thinking, though, to go back on the question, whoever had asked if they were going on a trip or which boat to go on, don't limit yourself to sport boats, too. There's a ton of charter boats out there. If you're willing to drop a little bit extra money to be with 4 or 6 year buddies instead of 20 random people,
absolutely.
Go ahead. We just launched our full charter page on BD Outdoors.
Oh,
we have a list of charter partners. There's we'll post, like, check out our Instagram. We'll post open spots and stuff like that. And with those kinds of guys, you have a different option. You know, like, you can run way quicker. You can pick up and move.
Fast.
Like, you can
fly
the kite for 3 or 4 hours, and if you don't have a tuna, you could be 40, 50 miles away fishing somewhere else. Whereas a sport boat, you're bluefin or bust. You know, or you're yellowtail or bust.
You're going 10 knots.
Yeah.
Very good point.
I'm biased, so I love the sport boats, but like, for all anglers out there, don't limit yourself to sport boats. If you want to get a charter, grab 4 or 6 year good buddies. Look at the charter page and
they call them like 4-packs or 6-packs.
Yeah, 4-pack, 6-pack. There's tons of good boats.
That's a good option.
And
definitely
And if you own your own boat too, and you don't know about Fish Dope, get onto there. Fish Dope is fantastic. It's kind of changed the way that private boaters can communicate with each other and figure out a game plan. It's basically current intel about where the fish are going, temp breaks. There's a spotter plane that goes by looking for tuna.
They just flew yesterday.
So it's especially if you're a private boater, it's an excellent resource. I know BD Outdoors has done a couple new articles about kind of the private boater prep. You know, like how to create a game plan, what weather apps, what fishing forecasts can you do to kind of plan your own trip to hopefully get out there and put some yellowtail on the boat yourself.
Well, the best thing about Fish Dope too is if you load it up at the dock and when you're offshore and you're in airplane mode, everything still works. You might not get a current update, but all the temp charts and everything still works.
Right.
And so you're able to basically see where the fish are, where they've been, where you want to go, in real time, which is like, it's basically like these sport boat captains have code groups where they're calling each other. Well, if you have a private boat, what are you gonna do? Like, call the Coast Guard and be like, "Hey, where are the fish at?" You know, that's what Fish Dope's for. So cool. Definitely Fish Dope's worth looking into for you private boaters. It's actually quite affordable. I think it's, I don't know, $170 a year. And if you're really into it, I don't know why you wouldn't. I don't own a boat, but if I did, well, not gonna lie, I do have a Fish Dope account just because I like to know when the fish are biting.
I didn't know where they're at.
Oh, yeah, they're right there.
Yeah, it's a very good resource, so check it out.
Yeah.
That was cool. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Oh, if you
Yeah.
haven't, yeah, we always have it on at the shop. We
I've
stoke
heard about
people
it.
out,
Stuff,
show
yeah,
people,
it's like,
it's
Yeah.
really like pulled the trigger. On it,
Captain's
yeah.
Concepts is a similar thing too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I talked to those guys over at
mhm.
PCS. I think their booth was by mine. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully we can get some going with them too. We want to try to get some working with those guys on BD. They do such a great job. Gavin and Matt are like two of the best
They're captain of San Diego, right?
Yeah, Matt Barala runs the San Diego, then Gavin runs the Pacific Queen.
Okay.
A couple of the best guys out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of the things that they talk about in Captain's Concepts are things we talked about tonight. Simple tricks about the boat and
Discolor work.
discolor work, does this and that and the other, and do you need to bring 11 different setups for a day and a half, or do you just need 3 really good rigs? Yeah, exactly.
They're revving up setups.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good advice. That's really good to know. And those guys, it's like just invaluable, having those guys have just done it for years and years. Bottom line is, even personally, you can't. Time on the water is so important.
Yeah.
These guys have it.
That's how you learn
in
everything.
droves, and even if you're a newer fisherman, you go out on your first sport boat, you might not know what the hell's going on, but then the second time, third time, you go, fourth time, and then pretty soon you're just like, you know what to expect, and just knowing what to expect is like you're already ahead of the game. You know when to get to the rail quick. You know when the boat stops, you're up, and you're already baiting up. You know all the cues.
Exactly. I remember my very first sport boat trip when I got back from Alaska. It was on the first string, which no longer exists. I'm pretty sure they accidentally punched a hole in it and they had to retire it. But me and my buddies were like, hell yeah, we're going on an overnight trip. So we stayed up till 2 in the morning drinking beer. Had our own little stateroom. We woke up at 9:30 in the morning and everyone's like, you guys blew it. Like, we caught 40 fish this morning. We're like, what do you mean? Like, we just had no clue what was going on.
Right.
Luckily, I was able to scratch a few yellowtail that day at the end, but now it's like, you have to understand the game here. Like, if you know that you're going to get to the tuna grounds at 1 a.m. and you're going to be fishing till 4, you need to teach your body to go to bed at 5 p.m.
Yeah, go get some rest.
I know you got a lot, you're not
hard.
used to it, but it's tough. But you got to lay down and you got to be ready for it, because especially on like a day and a half, 2-day trip, you do not want to be sleeping when they're biting or awake when they're not.
Yeah.
It was like our trip. We
Absolutely.
went. It was like 2 p.m., 3 p.m. We decided to go from San Nick to San Clemente. So I went to bed because it was like, we're gonna be fishing for tuna tonight, and it was like, all right, I'm gonna go to sleep then. And
Seriously.
Yeah, you gotta kind of adjust.
Yeah.
Because you're not gonna fish that whole time. It doesn't make sense to stay awake, because last thing you want to do is get there and you're already burnt. You're like,
exactly.
And then you want to fight a 200-pound tuna when you're already like dead.
Yeah.
Although I feel like your adrenaline get kicking enough, you'd be all right.
Yeah.
But after you catch that thing,
it
don't matter. You can sleep the rest of the trip and you already got the victory.
That's
you
the
don't
thing,
even need to,
especially on longer
fish
trips,
else,
pacing yourself is huge.
It's the in between the stops.
Oh.
When you're half asleep.
Drifting in the galley.
You come out and you drop down, you're like, oh, and he kicks it back into gear, and you're like, God damn it.
so harsh.
So funny.
Yeah, guys, thanks for coming on. Wrap it up. Do you have anything? Where can we find you? Or
yeah, man. I mean, just dude, go follow bdoutdoors.com, Instagram. It's literally bdoutdoors, DOTCOM, bdoutdoors.com, one word. If you already don't, bdoutdoors.com is our website. Make a forum account. So if you go in there without an account and you click around and the pop-up window comes up that says become a member, you don't have to pay. It takes 3 minutes. Let us know your name, your email, how old you are, where you're from, what you like to fish. From there, everything's wide open. There's all sorts of articles, from fish reports to charter sport boat page, travel guide, and then just maximizing the forum, making friends, learning people's names, and meeting people consistently. Deals, giveaways. We gave away a trip to Panama. I just got to go on it, so that was
so rad.
Insane.
Yeah.
We just gave away a trip to Loretto. We do social media giveaways. We have Africa's got one going with us right now. Like, just there's so many benefits. The website's free, so I don't. It's a no-brainer to me. And also, I don't think anyone's actually mentioned this publicly, but because we finalized it today, I'll mention it now. Keep your eyes out for a BD Outdoors and Hager Pirate
Oh, nice.
clothing collab.
No
Nice.
kidding.
This
Really?
This July,
You heard it here
BD
first.
Outdoors and Hager Pirate
They make
are
some.
coming
They make
out
some
with
super cool
with
stuff.
their clothing line.
Rad.
2 different shirt designs and 2
Nice.
different hat designs.
Sweet.
So
Very
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you again, Mike.
Yeah.
You can find me on BD Outdoors. Nate Winicky is my handle. Also my YouTube account. If you wanted to look at the little video about the Apollo trip, Nate Win Outdoors is where you can find that.
Yeah, we got some submission jig action on there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I saw it.
We'll put some more on there soon.
Well, then check the Instagram tomorrow too. I'll tag your Instagram as well.
Yep.
Just so in case anyone has a hard time finding you.
Mm-hmm. Nat Geo 211.
Yeah, Nat Geo. Wait.
Been my
Wait,
nickname for a long time.
you always start with news. Didn't you guys hear that like the world record Sierra mackerel got caught in Cabo this morning?
What?
You know, I looked up the news
did
too,
not
and I
hear that.
didn't. I looked at it. I didn't really see that much going on.
I don't know.
I knew you guys were going to come on though, so I didn't do that much like news prep.
Yeah.
But I did scan the stories.
I don't know. Don't fact check me, but I think it was weighed on the boat, so it wasn't official. But
Oh, interesting.
the only reason it popped in my mind is because I had Sierra mackerel for the first time as sashimi while I was in
Oh,
Panama.
interesting.
How was it?
Amazing.
Really?
Best sashimi I've ever had in my life.
No kidding.
It was absolutely.
I mean, I
amazing.
looked at it a little bit. It was like some people died on a boat in Alaska. I'm like, I don't know. I'm always reporting on dudes dying on fishing trips. It's like, it sucks, yeah.
No one wants to die on a boat.
Cool, dude. Good show. We need to talk about the mini. Yeah, dude. Let's talk about it.
Yeah,
But yeah, guys.
Oh, Yellowtail Shootout too.
Yeah.
If you guys want to compete, Yellowtail Shootout. It's at the end of the month. Sign up. Bunch of benefits, bunch of cool people. Sunday, the final day. Vendor Village is around. OCT, he'll be there. Big sponsor.
Yep. Thank you, Jeff.
Costa comes around. We have a bunch of other guys catch fishing. Tons of people helping out. Yeah, sign up and catch some yellowtail, win some money. Last year, the guys who won a clean sweep. They left with like 16K. They got
Really?
the
Wow.
biggest fish
Wow.
jackpot, the bag weight jackpot, the most fish jackpot, and then they clean
No
sweep.
kidding.
It was like a 16K victory.
Whoa.
But yeah, so that's
not
June
let that happen
20.
again.
June 24th is the day of fishing. The 23rd to 25th is the event window.
Cool.
So go to yellowtailshootout.com if you guys are interested in that. But
Awesome.
Mike, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Sure, we'll see you guys again. Also, guys, remember, go to smishfishing.com and check out local tackle stores all over the place. We want to get some of our jigs. So I appreciate all the support, guys. Obviously, thanks for everything. You guys are awesome, and we'll see you next week.
Sweet.
Later.